Tristram is too far to journey by foot. Cain would likely be dead when you arrived. However, there is a magical portal that will take you there instantly. To open it, one must stand within the circle of Cairn Stones and touch them in a certain order. The proper order can be found in the runes written on the bark of the tree of Inifus. You must find the sacred tree of Inifus and bring back its bark. I will translate the runes to unlock the stone's mystic pattern.
Returning to camp, with the blood of a certain raven still fresh on our beak, the witch Akara beckons to us once more to bark orders anew.
It is clear that we are facing an evil difficult to comprehend, let alone combat. There is only one Horadrim Sage, schooled in the most arcane history and lore, who could advise us. His name is Deckard Cain. You must go to Tristram and find him, my friend. I pray that he still lives.
The Horadrim scholar Deckard Cain lives. We'd heard he'd gone quite mad. The battle-hungry Captain Kasha then schemes.
The bark of Inifus holds mystical runes. Akara can translate them into our revenge.
You could say I'm intrigued. Reeve the Caravanner elucidates.
Months ago, I came across a few survivors from Tristram. They said that Cain had gone half-mad and could no longer distinguish fact from fantasy.
A man that cannot distinguish fact from fantasy. Sounds like Geed. Jazi the blacksmith then explains.
If you bring back the bark of Inifus, Akara will tell you how to get to Tristram.
And before we search for this underground passage to the dark woods, we stop briefly at Geed the portly merchant's camp, to which he confesses.
I would sooner micturate in a tankard of my own ale than journey to Tristram.
Totally unnecessary, Geed, my friend. I already did it for you. With our quest clear, led by Kasha's scout Habaya, we make haste to the cold plains to search for the Stony Field in which we're told the underground passage lies. There, we're met by a force of dark hunters and a batch of gargantuan beasts, led by the extra strong Windshank the Sharp.
Thank you.
Barely victorious, we decide to discard our now feeble wand for close-quarter combat and make use of our necromantic knowledge to poison a dagger on our person. The apothecary skills of the necromancer lay fundamentally in the studies of venoms, toxins, and other poisonous substances. Not only can a skilled necromancer identify the various strains of poison that he might come across, but he also maintains a ready supply of samples. Rarely does he shy from their use. In a common application of this skill, the necromancer paints his dagger with a thin coat of virulent poison. The greater his ability, the more potent the poison. Entering the Stony Field, we happen upon a gruesome vestige of what appears to be a fleshy tree. A fresh dose of poisoning reveals its inhabitants. Spawned from the nests that have infested the wilderness, these winged monsters known as foul crows assail passers-by with quick swooping attacks. Contending with the carrion carriers, we find we're but a stone's throw from a waypoint to the Stony Field, and to the northwest, the promised underground passage, burrowed into the side of the cliff. Inside said passage, we're immediately waylaid by the sickly, vile hunters and are forced to defend ourselves. Sisters to the Dark Hunters, these vile vixens have clearly succumbed further to demonic possession with their unholy visage. Lurking nearby are the scaly misshapen, led by the fire-enchanted Haze Festa. These malformed demons gain their strength and resilience from the natural element of lightning. While slow of foot, these beasts deliver a palpable hit when engaged at close range and can absorb a fair amount of damage. Tainted are perhaps an even greater threat when wounded, however, as this is when they retreat and direct their orbs of lightning at their enemies. While contending with a fresh batch of vile hunters, our attention momentarily forfeit as our guide, Abhaya, pays for our lapse of concentration and is killed by a quartet of skeleton archers, a costly mistake. We know skeletons do not consume the flesh of the living as many of their other undead kindred, but seek only to slay those who live to increase their ranks. Single-minded in their mission to slay the living, some of these animated warriors use the bows that served them in life to deadly effect. Archers let their brethren rush forward while they hang back and fire into the melee. And we played right into their bony bows. Persevering unguided through the caves, the malicious inhabitants impart to us a rare gift, a preserved head, only usable by the necromancer. It adds a boon to poison, raise skeleton, and amplify damage abilities. Also of note, the coveted bone armor spell of defense. This spell summons a barrier created from the bones of fallen warriors. The armor revolves around the necromancer, protecting him against all attacks. Although enchanted, the armor does take damage and will eventually crumble. After what seems like hours in the maze-like passage, we finally see a light at the end of the tunnel and exit to the dark wood. Surfacing to a gloomy forest, we're surrounded by vile hunters equipped with sharp blades and pointed purpose. Carvers close by crawl from a ruin, swarming, and our dagger begins to buckle under the strain of so many slain. As we retreat out of the fallen fenced fortress to the east, a pack of brutes attempt to smack us backwards, and we see what they are guarding, the coveted tree of Inifis. All of Hell's forces seem to converge due to our unwarranted trespassing, forcing our retreat back to the underground passage whence we came. There, we pick off an errant brute before ourselves, bounding through a town portal for much-needed repairs of our wares and insight into the ancient tree.
How will you find Cain without going to Tristram? Finding the Tree of Inifis is the first step on your journey.
The Tree of Inifis is hard to find, but you'll know it when you see it.
Without the bark of Inifis, you can't find Cain.
He who seeks that which cannot be found must look inside himself for further guidance. Or look harder.
Barking up the wrong tree, huh? You'll find it. Just keep looking.
Once returned to the passage, we decide a skeleton is too flimsy for the brute's blows and take the precious time to summon a clay golem. While it is fairly simple for a necromancer to animate dead tissue, it is another matter entirely to instill the spark of life into inanimate objects. The clay golem is the simplest form of this complex art, creating a servant directly from the earth to serve the necromancer. The intense strain this places on the psyche of the caster only allows him to maintain a single golem of any type at a time. Clearing the area near the tree, we then remark,
"This tree shines with inner spirits."
This knobby protuberance gives us the promised scroll of Inifis that displays a strange pentagram puzzle, and we know we must return to Akara. Pausing briefly, we identify the armor dropped by Treehead as Ghoul Shroud, blessed with modest attributes, including thorns damage to attackers. Once back in the rogue encampment, the residents urge us to take the scroll to Akara for further examination.
With this scroll, you may open a portal back to Tristram. Only Akara can decipher its logic.
What can I do for you? Get this to Akara. Only she can understand it.
Look, friend, I trade a lot of strange items, but I'm not gonna start dealing in bark, okay?
This looks like gibberish to me. Akara may know what to make of it.
Ah, very good. I have translated the runes on this scroll. You must find the Cairn Stones and touch them in the order that I have written.
With the sequence marked, our mission is clear. Go to the Cairn Stones in the Stony Field. Touch the stones in the order found on the Scroll of Inifis. Enter the portal to Tristram, but beware the danger that lies ahead. Back in the Stony Field, we find the Fallen guarding the Cairn Stones, led by their own lightning-enchanted demigod, Rakanishu, whose flesh, surprisingly, submits to our poison pitifully. His corpse gives a large yellow axe, glyph hue. Impressive attributes, if not for our newly found fondness of daggers. Approaching the Cairn Stones, we glance Akara's instructions of the order in which to activate the pillars. Once completed, lightning rains down from above and births an ominous red portal. In which we have only one choice if we're to save Cain, and as such, hesitantly step inside.
All that's left of proud Tristram are ghosts and ashes.
Encountering a rogue's corpse next to the portal, her body ripped asunder in what can only be described as unbound rage. Not even the cows were safe. The town is now overrun by demons, and we attempt to scout the outskirts of the dilapidated ruins, untethering the bound body of a dead rogue left to sear in the heat of hellfire. To the north, there are wagons blocking the exit of the town that leads to the infamous cathedral. West, along the river bank, the fallen swarm around a single body of a boy killed not long ago. Examining the boy's corpse and coming into contact with his wooden peg leg, our senses overwhelmed as we see his past as a young, mercantile rapscallion before, that is, the town fell.
Psst, over here.
The horror of this sheer destruction gives us pause, and we portal back to town momentarily to glean any information we can about the horrors we're about to face.
I have heard that Tristram is now in ruins. Without Cain, I fear for the ruin of all of us.
I'm told that Tristram now resembles a mead hall after a barbarian wedding. I will wait here for your most glorious return.
It is too dangerous to travel to Tristram. I won't be leaving here until the way is clear.
Deckard Cain has crucial knowledge about the evils we face. You must find him.
If he still lives, Deckard Cain may be in grave peril. You must hurry to Tristram before all is lost.
Not liking Cain's odds, we dutifully return to Tristram for a final time. South of the river, we're again accosted by the fallen fiends, but an unfamiliar figure joins the fray. The stout blacksmith Griswold was once one of those who were bound past death to attend the desires of the three. Wandering the town he once loved, he uses arcane powers and unholy strength granted to his twisted body by Andariel to stop any from following the path of the Wanderer, sinking our poisoned dagger into his undead heart. Granting Griswold rest once more, we look into his past and can almost hear his greeting in a hearty brogue.
Whoa, what can I do for you?
To the south is a sun-bleached corpse splayed across a rock whose body had passed many moons ago. Handling his drinking flask, we see the past memories of a befuddled man whose name was Farnham, drowning his sorrows in a perpetual stupor.
Kind of fellow drinking peace?
Crossing into the town square, we hear Deckard Cain's cries from the center of town.
Help!
A and begin to clear the lingering enemies, and we see Cain himself locked in a gibbet with a front row seat to the carnage below. Freeing Cain, we exclaim,
Deckard Cain, if you value your life, leave here immediately.
As we move to see if there are any more survivors, we brush against his gibbet, and instead of seeing the past, we peer into something we have never glimpsed before, Cain's divergent future. There, we spy Cain in a desert land, and his fate if we had not saved him from the demons this day.
Oh, blessings on the rogues. They finally rescued me from that cursed place.
Back at town, we find two badly charred remains of bodies and not much else. The first, out front of a tavern, lies the torso of its obsequious owner, Ogden.
Greetings, good master. Welcome to the Tavern of the Rising Sun.
And to the southwest, a clinician's corpse who was once a healer named Pepin, his body and perhaps soul ravaged by demons beyond any repair.
What ails you, my friend?
Finally, we pause by the well in the center of town and take one last look at Tristram, bodies piled of dead rogues, and peer into the past to see the horrors at the hands of the Dark Wanderer, bringing death and destruction.
Back, you bastards! Haunted!
And we can't help but wonder, is this our fate? If we follow his path? But does one truly have a choice? One can only match, move by move, the machinations of fate, and thus defy the tyrannous stars. Returning to camp, the inhabitants all point us to Akara for our reward.
Again, you amaze me, Outlander. The Sisterhood is grateful to you for delivering Cain to us. I believe Akara has something to tell you.
Only a brave adventurer could return with Deckard Cain. Akara has a reward for your valor.
Akara wishes to reward you for your bravery in returning Deckard Cain.
Ah, Cain is here. Another customer. I haven't been this pleased since a love-starved maiden let down a bit more than her hair.
Greetings. You have risked your life to rescue Cain. For that we thank you. We must seek his counsel immediately.
And finally, we speak to Cain, who bears grave news about Tristram and our enemies ahead.
As a token of my gratitude, I will identify items for you at no charge. Regrettably, I could do nothing to prevent the disaster which devastated Tristram. It would appear that our greatest fears have come to pass. Diablo, the Lord of Terror, has once again been set loose upon the world. As you know, some time ago Diablo was slain beneath Tristram, and when our hero emerged triumphant from the labyrinth beneath town, we held a grand celebration that lasted several days. Yet, as the weeks passed, our hero became increasingly aloof. He kept his distance from the rest of the townsfolk and seemed to lapse into a dark, brooding depression. I thought that perhaps his ordeal had been so disturbing that he simply could not put it out of his mind. The hero seemed more tormented every passing day. I remember he awoke many times, screaming in the night, always something about the East. One day he simply left, and shortly thereafter Tristram was attacked by legions of foul demons. Many were slain, and the demons left me to die in that cursed cage. I believe now that Tristram's hero was that dark wanderer who passed this way before the monastery fell. I fear even worse, my friend. I fear that Diablo has taken possession of the hero who sought to slay him. If true, Diablo will become more powerful than ever before. You must stop him, or all will be lost.